then move forward with some question and answer. Does that sound good? Okay, so when we initially launched the integrated Snap application, we thought it was going to be so great, and we went out to, and it was so great. But we went out, and we went out to our different branches, and we started training our loan officers on specifically Surefire and how it integrated in. And then we wanted to teach our loan officers every little detail about how to work in the system. How many of you know how to work in Surefire? You would use it every day, and you've got your contacts. That's awesome. A lot of our loan officers are a little bit older and are not really familiar with how to do technology. They're not really familiar with change, and it was, quite frankly, it was really hard to teach. So let's see. We have loan officers that we like to talk to our loan officers and let them know, you are salespeople. Your job is to develop that relationship with your borrower and to be out there in your community. We find that the best loan officers are the ones that don't just sit at a desk all day, but they're integrated in with their community and they're developing those relationships every day. They're out there, they're closing deals, and they're sharing their knowledge. But when we first started the training, we recognized that it was causing a lot of frustration with our loan officers. And we spent hours and hours training on the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't clicking. And we found that with marketing, if they did send out a blast, it was really sporadic. It wasn't consistent, and sometimes the content wasn't very relevant. So we started a different program after we realized that our loan officers really became upset with this process. And we decided that the best way for us to develop in our system was to do what we do best and allow our loan officers to do what they do best. So as Director of Strategic Support, I'm over our sales support team, and they work hand in hand with our marketing team to develop really relevant content. We have 5 different regions across the US, and each of those regions are very unique. And so they have a specific marketing person for each region, and they have a monthly marketing plan that is listed out, given to our loan officers. They know exactly what's being deployed to their contacts, and it's done through Surefire every month. So without fail, their people are being contacted. Behind the scenes, I have a story about my son is a chef, and he knows the ins and outs of everything to be a chef. And he can julienne, he can saute, he can put his hand in 500-degree ovens and pull out amazing things and create. But he really does not want you back there when he's cooking. He's just like, get out of my kitchen, okay? Go enjoy the food and get out of my kitchen. And that's how, as our sales support and marketing teams look at the content and deploying this, we don't want our loan officers having to learn a new system. We would prefer them to be out doing what they do and just delivering the content. Basically, enjoy the food, get out of my kitchen. So that's what we talk about. Our team has found that by implementing this monthly marketing plan, we have increased the reach tenfold. No lie. When our new loan officer comes over, all we ask for is that they give us their contact list. After we get their contact list, we upload it into Surefire, and we start marketing to them. When they do loans through the Simple Nexus tool through our Snap app, that feeds into Surefire. They have drip campaigns going, and then they continue on the marketing plan afterward. So it's really consistent, and we found that works the best for us. We've basically just taken over the technology piece. We set up all of the mobility RE setups behind the scenes. Contacts are uploaded in mass from my team, and for us it works really well. I know that other companies are different, but that's what we found works really, really well. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take some time for each of our other presenters to talk a little bit about how their systems integrate and who speaks to who in system speak, and then maybe we can do some question and answer. Does that sound good?
Sure. Okay. I guess I'll start. Thank you, Heather. So, to her point where she's driving a lot of this value, kind of speak, it's an interesting dilemma that we face. I'm head of product at the top of mind, and you're always going to have your power users, and you're always going to have the loan officers that do want to log in and do their own thing, and that's great. And so where we struggle sometimes is finding out how much muscle do we put behind the tools to let that 5 to 10% power user group go do their own thing versus giving you the tools to do the thing for the other 90% of your originators, which they're just, regardless of what system you use, they're just not gonna do it. They don't know how to do it. They're not tech savvy. I don't want to say they're lazy, but like they're doing what they should be doing. They're selling. So we do. That's part of our vision is adding that value and having kind of the easy button to where the yellow, if they want to do more stuff, great. If not, all this stuff is happening behind the scenes with teams like hers, and you just don't have to worry about it. And having good partners like Mobility RE and Simple Nexus, kind of the same value prop there as well. The yellow can do more if they want to, but a lot of this stuff just happens for them.
And we do have those power users that are in there every day and asking for more technology and more integration. So it's kind of this balance, like you said, between both our power users and just people that just want to be out there closing deals, and then we can still market behind the scenes for them.
Yeah, Ken, I think even is that there's not really like a silver bullet, right? Which is why it's important to have different technologies. So consumers are going to come in through a variety of different channels. Sometimes it's nice to think that you're going to create this perfect path and everybody's going to flow through this perfect path, right? We get the perfect loan application and then like everything will come, right? But sometimes people are looking for homes, right? And sometimes people they're not. I mean, you just got to make sure that you're staying in their thoughts, right? Or that you want to make sure that they're aware of new content that's coming out. And I think that's where the systems are real complementary in the sense that we want to give them we kind of like to think of a Simple Nexus in a way as being kind of like a single place they can have a single login to do a lot of different things. And sometimes that's going to be the introduction, maybe from a realtor using the platform. Loan officers are great, these different links, and you have a link per realtor, right? And then that's branded to the realtor with the home search and tying back into top of mind and reporting and so you know when to take action on particular things. Having these different channels and being systematic about it, I think it's overlooked too often. And one other thing, just kind of a side comment, for me that's a really big deal is who you work with, right? And just want to say, for Mobility RE, on top of mind, close partners, because I want to work with the people I like, I enjoy being around, and they have confidence in. And I think the systems do a lot in that way. But as far as it might be worth talking through a little bit on like what are some of the paths that people take to get into the systems, right? I don't know if it's worth us maybe taking a minute and kind of just define some sample scenarios that people go through, right? You got the single property sites, right? And all these people talk through that.
Sure. Yeah. So, going off that, I think there are a lot of different channels and ways that a consumer can come in here, and I think that's what we're trying to really accomplish. Is there are 3 great companies, great technologies, and we've tried to bring them all together into one. And I think it benefits you as a lender, but it also really benefits the consumer. And that is that what really entices a consumer right now is they want to find a home. That's really what the goal here is. They need a loan in order to get into that home that they want to live in. And so people will come in, and that's what we've tried to do is give them that beginning to end product so that they can find that house, whether it's through a single property website, a home that they saw and are interested in. Maybe it's not quite what they need, so they start looking at other homes within the home search. And then from there, they're able to start that next process of starting a loan application, and then using Surefire to then follow up with them on all the other things. And so we try to create that end user experience of, hey, here are all the homes that are available. These are ways you can filter. This is what you can do to find that, and then these are the steps you need to take after that in order to make that happen, to be able to buy that home and get in there. So.
No, well, I think it's good to identify these use cases, and so, like Ben says, someone downloads the app, they were referred the app either through their realtor or, once the consumer actually gets the home search app, they can then forward that on to their friends and family if they want to, and those are all instantly added as leads into the Surefire system, and so marketing automation can be built. You can have a rule that's set up that says anytime a new inbound lead comes in from a Mobiliari, here's the drip they're going to go on. And then, fingers crossed, the end result of that is they actually, at some point, start an app with Simple Nexus, and those leads also come in to Surefire, and you can have rules and marketing automation set up to where it would kill any existing workflows they were on because they were a home shopper. Now they're an applicant. And you have different marketing and different stuff set up behind the scenes in the back of the house going out to those consumers. So it's the right message at the right time in the home buying process. So, it's almost like you got the home search, which is the goal. They want to get in the house, then the application, and then all the marketing that happens behind the scenes. That's kind of why the three of our firms work very well together, and kind of all three pieces of a puzzle, with the loan officer being the fourth, to really drive that value home for the home buyer.
I'm kind of curious, just, I don't know, maybe, other people would be interested in having specific questions. Go ahead.
So it relates to exactly what you're talking about. So in trying to be a little more specific, like, how is that well, let's use that it's Snap Home, right? How is that introduced to the applicant or the home shopper, right, in a manner that they go in and use how robust it is?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Who takes them through that?
Yeah, so here's a really common scenario. It happens in a lot of different ways. Depending on your type of business, I'm assuming you're doing like traditional retail type of business. So what a common scenario would be the loan originator is going to set up, they're going to set up like this co-branded app, right? It's going to have a realtor in it, it's going to have a loan officer in it. It's going to have a series of links, like Heather talked about, which are going to be things inside of it, like it'll automatically pick up a home search specific to that realtor in their area or areas. It's going to have things like reviews for the loan originator, the realtor. It's going to have contact information for them. Well, the loan officer is going to take this custom version that they created. It's just a link, just like a website. And they can distribute that by text message or by email or whatever. But they'll also get the realtor set up. And so the realtor can be sitting in an open house or a builder, like an agent or builder's model home. It can have the builder's communities in it or their model homes embedded within it. And then from that open house, for example, the realtor can then just hand this over and say, hey, you know what? Maybe this is the house for you, but here's a great tool that you can use. You set up one account. You're going to be able to search for your homes. You're going to be able to, and this is real-time home search. You're not going to worry about whether the home is still active or not, like if you were searching on Zillow. You're going to be able to apply for a mortgage. If you go through that process, you can sign all your documents. Really, it's one place to be able to do everything. So the agents are handing these over, and the loan officer is getting notified. Hey, somebody got this installed. Call, text, or email right now, and it's a warm introduction. It's not like here's a business card. Give them a call, or I'll tell them to call you, and kind of that first awkward hello. it's you know, it's got your info and your face on it, the realtor's info.
Yeah.
and so on.
So I get that, and it sounds fabulous. What I'm having to get, have anybody show me, maybe it's somebody, is like what does the consumer get, and are they, it's so robust, right? I mean, they can do so much, but will they do that without some education, training, of their own, whether it's through video, right?
Okay.
So I think I'm interested in hearing that.
I think it's a
experience.
great question, and so I'll share some success stories. We've heard from LOs or branch managers that have thrown it out in the wild, and then the response that we heard from them and what their consumers did. And this was really kind of a cool story. And this branch actually uses all three products as well. So it kind of started with the mobility product to their realtor partners. So the way that worked is that branch came to us and said, all right, we want to work with these 5 or 6 independent brokerages, meaning not a Keller Williams, not a Remax, a brokerage that didn't have their own customized app being handed down from corporate. So they approached each of those brokerages and they said, hey, we're going to create this mobile app for you. It's going to do home search and all these other cool features. Would you guys be interested? And all brokerages said, yeah, we'd love that. We need one. We know we need it to compete. Our agents would love it. So we created apps for, it's about 1,600 agents amongst those independent brokerages. Then those agents are trained by the mobility team to say, all right, agents, here's how you need to deploy this. This is how you've got to get it into the hands of the consumer. So our team talks to them about sign writers, open houses, social media, all the different ways that agent can now get the app out there and get it into the consumer's hands. And so as we rolled that out and launched it, each of these agents now get excited and say, hey, this thing's awesome. I need something to compete about all the ads I see on TV for Rocket Home and Rocket Mortgage and other things that can do everything in one spot. So now these agents were out promoting it on their signs, pushing it on their social media in open houses. What was really pretty exciting to hear now from this branch is these consumers, the way that we've built all this, it really is pretty user-friendly. So the consumer will text in off the sign because they're interested in it. They'll get a text back, they open it up, it says, hey, here's homes near your area or the home you're in front of. They look at it. From there, they can see all the pictures, the information. It then has a button there that says apply now. They can start that loan application. That all then funnels through to Surefire. And this branch told us they're getting about 35 unsolicited loan applications in their inbox every month now, just because they went out, they gave it to all these agents. Agents are now passing it along, and it's working. The consumer is kind of following those steps through, filling out the loan app. Everyone's being notified through the system. So hopefully that kind of helps explain beginning to end how it's deployed and how it works. So.
And one thing, oh, Jesus, sorry, this microphone's different. One thing I want to make sure is clear is that this is not like the mobility app that someone downloads and has to like select an agent or whatever. It's the Steve Friedman or whatever the agent's name. It's their app, and so what is being sent to the consumer is a link to download that agent's specific app. So when he says he has 1,600 agents, there's literally 1,600 apps in the App Store that are available to be downloaded. So the agents are the ones out there distributing these links to download their specific app, and that's how the whole process starts. Does that answer your?
It does, but you brought up another question regarding the other, like Keller Williams and their new mortgage company. How do are we dealing with the fact that they want you to download their apps?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we experience it, quite a bit. Now, going into an independent broker is a whole lot easier just because they don't have one, and they say we need one because everyone else has one. But just as recent as last week, our team did a rollout to a big Keller Williams office, and it was really interesting to hear these agents come up after and say, this thing's incredible. It does all these things that my corporate app given to me doesn't do. It makes my buyers register and they leave. It doesn't tie in directly. It doesn't let me brand this way. It doesn't have the direct link to my loan officer. And so what we really recommend in those scenarios is to just say, hey, we're gonna do a webinar, we're gonna show you the app, just check it out and see if you like it. And we're confident enough that once we get in front of the Kellers, the Remaxes, the Coldwells, other offices that may have something being given to them, they'll quickly realize this thing's easier to use, my consumer's gonna like it better. So it's pretty cool at the end of those to see their reaction, and they kind of ditch what they've been given and run with it. But one other thing I'll say, sorry, there's another question, but something we've heard often is these big brokerages are giving these apps out for retention, but agents move around. So you can't really go into a Keller office and say, hey, if you leave Keller, this app goes with you. But you can have that conversation at lunch with that agent and say, hey, if you decide to do something, Keller keeps that app and all your leads stay on there and all your clients you've built for 10 years. But with the platform that the three companies have created, that's pretty powerful for that agent. So, all right, there was another.
Real quick, just one other way we try to tie all that together as well is there's content in our flyer system in Surefire as well that describes this exact value proposition, and that gives you something you can just download and print and take as a leave behind for these realtors you're going to meet with. It's like, here's what we can do, here's how we can help you, you'll get your own link, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool. Well, I have two questions for you guys. One's a good question, and I think the other one's bad, mostly because it deals with compliance, and I know we don't want to talk about that during these sales summits, right? But I guess my first bad question is for Heather is, how do you make sure that this is compliant or kosher within your compliance department? Because, with this app and these tools, it's a great resource for these realtors, and I'm trying to figure out how that works.
Absolutely. Every single piece of marketing content before it's actually uploaded into Surefire is reviewed from our compliance team. All the marketing pieces are compliant. Everything that we've launched goes through our marketing team or through our compliance team beforehand. Every single piece of this is not just compliant, but we know it's secure. We had issues in terms of security, documents, uploads, that kind of stuff. All of this actually goes through, like any of the document uploads that we upload through our Snap app go directly into our LOS, so they're uploaded right into Encompass.
Well,
and it's all very much reviewed for compliance beforehand.
Right. Well, specifically on the mobile app, since you guys are co-branding that app with the realtor, you can co-brand it with many realtors. How do you, split the cost if you are doing that?
Yeah,
so that,
I can take that.
Go for it.
Okay, sorry. Here's how we've structured it. With mobility, it's really kind of unique because we are that co-branded app. We have a product that we go directly to the realtors, and they pay $60 a month for that app. But then when we work with our lenders, we say, look, lender, let's execute an advertising agreement that says you're going to get this banner across the app that has the link to SimpleNexus that basically says apply now. So the way that we structure that, and we've done this now for 10 years, is that you advertise on the mobility platform with your banner for that loan officer and the apply now features. We then give it to the realtor partner to say, mobility will give realtors free apps as long as it has that banner on there. But if an agent says, you know what, I don't want that banner on there, then they pay us $60 a month for that. But fortunately, we know the realtor mentality, and they'd love a banner for $60 a month. So we structured it that way and have done it and haven't run into any issues. None of our lenders have run into issues because you can advertise wherever you like. And mobility can give apps away. It's kind of the Google model. You can watch YouTube all day long if you'll sit and watch that advertisement at the beginning. Realtor can have a free app for mobility if they'll have that under banner across there. So that's
and we tend to try not to be compliance police because that's just not our game. But if any of you here need to go back and have this argument with your compliance department, the thought process is this is really no different than Zillow. Like an agent's not paying money to have their stuff on Zillow, that's just free. But you as a loan officer, if you want to have an advertisement, you're paying Zillow. And so that's really the kind of same business model, I guess, that is being approached here.
Exactly. Yep.
I can comment too, and well, thanks for the question, TL.
This was the bad one,
That was a bad one.
No,
Have a
that's
good one
actually,
coming
no,
up.
it's
Have a good one
it's a
coming
common
up.
one, and what we, so I'm not a compliance person, but in talking with lenders, what I hear is that, you have to be careful about how you advertise it, how you talk about it, in the sense, this is a benefit to the consumer, right? I mean, very often it's the realtor making the introduction, right? They already know who this person is, but they're making a warm introduction over to the lender or to their LO, and that's just improving the experience for the consumer. I think we have maybe 22,000 loan officers actively using the platform today. Been doing it for 7 years, and we haven't had any obstacles there. So.
I think we just have time for this last. You had another question. These guys we're gonna have a cocktail hour after this, and they'll be available. But we have time for one more question before the next session starts.
Okay, I stole it because Taylor got one. Okay, so mine is a little bit more technical in nature, so I'm going to try to articulate it correctly, but it has to do with data integrity between the 3 platforms. This is something we've kind of run into on our team. So for example, sometimes we acquire leads from, say, Facebook, and of course we are then trying to nurture that lead into an application. And then should that person then fill out an application, they are then going to be put into Surefire from our LOS. Well, then we kind of trust in the dedupe utility to do its job there, and therefore that whole journey is going to be recorded in Surefire. So we understand that we first acquired that lead through Facebook, and then they were turned into an app. But it's kind of a very wary trust we have in that utility. So I want to know if there was any, first of all, if that question makes sense, and then second of all, so if you acquire a lead through, say, Mobility RE, and then nurture them into an application through Simple Nexus, all of that information is recorded then in Surefire. Do you find that the data is then always matched correctly, or do you run into issues there?
So the beautiful part about that with Surefire specifically is that we allow you to define what a duplicate means. And so we've got some off-the-shelf recommendations. What I generally find works 99% of the time, the only exception is twins, is last name and date of birth. It's the same person at that point, including year. But so I know when we're getting data from Simple Nexus, there's a lot more data to choose from in terms of what you can say, okay, these 3 things match, it's the same person. It's a little more liberal when it comes over from Mobility. Oftentimes, we don't always have an email address, so, look.
I would imagine you don't ask for birthday.
Right.
First get
Because no one's going to fill that out. So in those scenarios, Joe Smith and Joseph Smith are probably going to end up creating duplicate records unless they happen to type in their whatever name the same on both locations. But I feel like given the flexibility to determine what you think a duplicate means, you can make it as conservative or liberal as you want, knowing that no solution is going to be perfect. And you can, if you see, okay, look, there's way too many duplicates, you can make it slide the bar a little to the right. But again, no solution is going to be 100% perfect there.
Okay. I think that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, we really gotta switch.
What was yours quick? I know you had a question over there. No, okay. Well, we can. All right.
Let's while Brianna from NFM is getting set up, let's